All right. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the Queen of Sheba. And I wanted to show you that in the mainstream Bible, there's a recording of her going to visit King Solomon. And that matches up with one of the stories we have about her in the Glory of Kings from the Holy Megillah. And so we won't get to read it tonight because it's really long, but I'm going to skim through it. She also talked to King David first before she talked to Solomon, because we know David is Solomon's father. So in the Holy Megillah, they have her meeting with Samson first, and then with David, and then with Solomon. And so to read that, we got to go over to the Glory of Kings. But before we do that, I just wanted to show you what it said about her in the mainstream Bible. It says that the Queen of Sheba is renowned for her visit to King Solomon, during which she brought an impressive array of gifts. She presented Solomon with 120 talents of gold, a vast quantity of spices, and precious stones. The Bible emphasizes that the spices she brought were of such abundance that they were never seen again in Jerusalem. It says these gifts were a testament to her kingdom's wealth and her respect for Solomon's wisdom and prosperity. In return, Solomon gave her gifts and every desire that she expressed before she returned to her land. But that's not how the story goes in the Megillah. Solomon actually kicked her out because she was not trying to entertain him. She was there to tell him that he was from this kingly line of Abraham, but that he had got mixed and that he needed to lay down the worldly crown and put on a spiritual crown. And Solomon was not trying to hear that. But sort of kind of the same conversation she had with his father, David. But now we were talking about her in the book of Hanukkah and also in this Glory of Kings, and it was talking about a mystery and what is her mission. Because this is kind of like a retelling of the book of Hanukkah. And I told you the title of this book was The Revelation of the Queen of Sheba. And it's also an account of the splitting of the kingly line of Abraham. It's very telling because it starts out here telling us that to Kushab, which means prick up your ears, listen up, the glory of the kingly line of Abraham through his son Isaac, who came to earth as Noah. Yea, this is not the glory of man, but is the glory of the seventh heaven come to earth. So it, bam, starts out with telling us about Noah. Now, if you don't know about the story of Noah, yes, there's also a book of Noah. If you're new here, welcome to the channel, but you're gonna have to do some catch up. Visit Essene.org, and you can find out about getting your own copy, and you can find out a lot about everything that is taught in the Megillah without even having to read the Megillah. So you might want to do that if you're new here. But this chapter 1 is about the defilement of the earth by the seraphim. And so knowing about the story of Noah is real important. And then to know that he was Isaac and he was from the seventh heaven is just like icing on the cake, because then you understand about this bloodline of Abraham. We have the story of the giants here as well, that we have it in Genesis and we have it in the Ethiopian book of Enoch. We have the same story here, and they made giants and ferocious soldiers by mating seraphim with the daughters of men. And these soldiers were birthed in glass tubes like Cain, for no human womb could birth such big babies. Even Lucifer, though no longer of natural flesh, made it with a human woman. For in the time when he was still of flesh, which was long before he came to our world, he preserved his seed for this purpose, that he might seed many worlds. And his seraphim, some of a mixed flesh and metal, some entirely artificial, did likewise at his command. So we're told here that Lucifer mated with Lilith, who was a daughter of Cain, and she enjoyed drinking human blood. She was loathsome and wicked, and her son by Lucifer's name was Sargon. Okay, and I just wanted to share that with you right now because we're going to be told in this Glory of Kings, the splitting of the line of Abraham happened when Samson and Delilah had a son, and his name was Shamuth. And we're told that Delilah is from that bloodline of Sargon that goes all the way back to the time of Noah. Okay, where we were reading that in the last video, we got all the way to chapter 3, and that's where it told us that Hanukkah the first Yaira did not die, but one day she disappeared. It says, after some years passed, it was assumed she had ascended unto El Cush, but having ascended, she immediately returned to earth, keeping a human body. For lo, she did not die, rather she was initiated into the Zero Anise star, and she began her ministry as queen of the guardian of the scrolls. Okay, and so it keeps going and tells us many generations after the disappearance of Hanukkah, yea, even many generations after the time of Moses, she came to live again amongst the Nazareans. But the Nazareans didn't know that she was Hanukkah or that she was of the Zero Anise star. They just knew her as Shebah the midwife, for she was in the service to the household of Samson, the Yair of the Nasarean nation of Yisrael. And the story of how she became to serve Samson, the great Nazarene priest king, now follows. It's a long story, but these guys, all the way starting from Noah, and then all these generations later, Samson's father's name was Elijah, and they were said to be from that Abrahamic bloodline. Okay, then we got the story of him and Delilah. It starts here in verse 111. When Samson was 20, he was traveling in Egypt where he met a young woman, and her name was Delilah. She was beautiful beyond compare, and she was rich, for her father was a wealthy merchant. It tells us down here that the Hebrew name Delilah means tease, and that her father's name is pronounced Mo Cash. I thought of Mo Money, Mo Problems, but that his name, it meant snare or trap. So Samson had got ensnared. Like I said, he ended up having a child with Delilah, and Sheba comes at the end of the story and tells Samson that this is a trap, and he didn't even believe her, but he knew that he had fallen. So she ends up telling Samson something really important that I want to read because it's relevant. She says, there is more, yea, in regards to you, their plotting is thick with many layers. They hope that through your mating with Delilah, who is of their line, they will subvert the bloodline of Abraham and Sarah. Indeed, they hope to breed their own line of kings, mixing the subverted seed of Abraham with the surviving line of Sargon. Not that they care about the blood of Abraham, but that they feed off the energy of the fall of that bloodline. Okay. And if that bloodline were to be compromised by mixing with their seed, they find that a cause for great glee. Wherefore, this purpose they have created an order called the House of Zion, and through that order they will lay claim to the Messianic kingship. And though that claim will be false, they will seduce many to serve their Messianic pretender. For behold, in the last days their puppet king will lay claim to the royal bloodline and will claim the title of Christ. But in truth their king will be naught but an antichrist, a puppet of the hidden powers that pull his strings. But not only the house of Zion makes plans, so does the house of the Lord and the Lady. And so the house of Zion may for a time gloat in that their plan to subvert the bloodline of Abraham is a seeming success. But behold, Abraham will have the last laugh. For from the very bloodline they believe subverted will come forth a king who will in his last days awaken. And when he awakens from his lifelong slumber, so will the fallen line of Noah be redeemed. Yea, the fallen line will come to an end, but not before redemption. And the aged lion who awakens in his own last days will inaugurate the beginning of the last days of this world. And he will do this by planting the true ark of the covenant in the desert of Cush. What she said here to Samson is kind of what she goes and says to David next. So we're going to jump over there real quick. I just need you to know what's happening here and what her mission is, and wow, and who it's to. Because even going to talk to these guys, so this is chapter 4, where the story of Shebah and David tells us here, though the kingly line of Abraham was preserved in the purity through Malachiel, because Samson ended up getting married again after Delilah was killed. And they had a son named Malachiel. And so it says the kingly line of Abraham and Sarah was preserved in purity. But though the kingly line of Abraham was preserved in purity through Malachiel, the line was soon to be split. For Samson's son through Delilah, Shemuth, fathered a son named David, and David began a kingly line which, though descended from Abraham and Sarah, was not Nasarean. So now we'll just jump over to verse 38 of this chapter 4 and read what Shebah said to David. Now remember, David happens to be mixed with those two bloodlines. This is what she said to David, because he's the one this whole prophecy was about this whole time. So it says in verse 38, when the ageless Shebah visited King David, she revealed unto him his Nasarean lineage and the truth about the Ark of the Covenant. She told him that the Aaronite Ark was the house of the false scripture of a false god served by a false priesthood. Yea, and she declared that the Nasarean Ark was the house of the true scripture of the true Yahweh, served by the true priesthood. But King David mocked her, saying, then I am a prophet, so hear my prophecy. Though I be born 6 times and live 6 lifetimes, I will not acknowledge my Nazarean roots. And though I be born 6 times and live 6 lifetimes, I will not shift allegiance from the Aaronite Ark to the Nazarean Ark. The smile, Sheba responded, your prophecy is true. I have heard your true prophecy, now you hear mine. For lo, my prophecy is equally true. She says, for 6 lifetimes, and most of a 7th, you will serve the Aaronite covenant. But at the end of your 7th lifetime, you will awaken to your Nazarean lineage. Yea, you will fall down on your knees before the Lord Christ and the Lady Christ, and offer them your crown. For in Alexandria, which will be a city of illumination in Egypt, you will receive the Mahezegedolah, the great revelation. And in so doing, you will wear the crown of humility. Only then will you know Kether, the crown of glory, which is the true glory of true kings. Wherefore the crown of David will be reunited with the line of Abraham, and you will be the last of the Davidic kings. For once the split of the bloodline of Abraham is healed in you, the Davidic line of kings will come to an end. But when Lucifer learns of this, he will have you killed. For if he cannot have the true Davidic bloodline produce his false Messiah of the last days, then he will claim a false bloodline to be the true. Because in the story of Samson, Sheba really goes into detail telling him about what type of sport it is for them to corrupt the bloodline from the 7th heaven. Listen what she said. For if he cannot have the true Davidic bloodline produce his false Messiah of the last days, then he will claim a false bloodline to be the true. But though you become a lamb and be slaughtered, you will rise as a conquering lion. For behold, at the end of your 7th lifetime, when Lucifer kills your mortal body, you will attain Shekiel Nichi. Yea, that is the immortal body that cannot die. And you will ascend unto the heavenly Alexandria, which is the 6th heaven, to be prepared for your next mission. And then He will ascend unto the seventh heaven to be embraced by Abraham and Sarah. Yea, the kingly line of Abraham that is split in the first incarnation of David will be healed in the last incarnation of David. Wherefore Abraham will have the last laugh, and Lucifer will curse his bad luck. But lo, Lucifer knows not a certain mystery, which is this: each man makes his own luck. King David, perplexed by the prophecy of Shebah, ordered her to leave his kingdom. At parting, he declared, "And though I be born 6 times and live 6 lifetimes, I will not set my eyes upon you." Sheba smiled and replied, "Again, you speak true words of prophecy. For lo, you will not again set eyes on me until the end of your 7th lifetime. Then I will lead you to a certain place in Cush. There you will bury the Nasarean Ark of the Covenant in the womb of Cush, and it will be the seed of the last age. Behold, the Lord and the lady have seen all of this, for they are the true seers, and their prophecies are the words I have spoken." And so the next story in this Glory of Kings is where she goes to David's son Solomon, and she says the same thing. It says, "In the manner that Sheba visited David to reveal his Nazarean roots, but was rejected, so did she visit his son Solomon." Okay? And it tells the whole story. And it's a juicy story. And I already have it on a channel, so if you don't have the Megillah, you can look for it. The story of Sheba and Solomon. It's already up there. And I may do it again too, because it's juicy, and each time I do it, like I say, guys, I get more light and I get more connections, and it's just like, oh man, uh, mm, mm, mm. Artifacts. Just finding artifacts all over the place. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. What I want you to keep in mind is we may come back with a little bit more on Sheba, but I wanted you to see how her being from this other galaxy. So part of her mission, what it's looking like to me, is to be here also for these offspring that were left here too, from that bloodline of Sargon. When they're from that same galaxy that Hanukkah's from. There's a big redemption going on, and I hope you guys can see it. But all right, thanks for watching. I'll be back soon.